It's Friday, February 17th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And today, after a big shooter bar that developed kind of in the middle of this big trading range, we end up with a gap down that ended up being what looks like almost a reversal hammer bar to the upside. And I kind of discussed this possibility on the recap video yesterday. I discussed it on some of the individual videos today, how, when you have like a shooter bar, but it's in the middle of a range, don't be surprised if you get the follow through to the downside. But given, you're in a trading range, maybe you're not going to really continue all the way down. And in this case, there were a few opportunities to try the short side. I'll go over those in a second, but it's not, you were watching very closely anytime. And let's go to the weekly chart. This is the key thing here. We have a double inside week here, essentially relative to this green bar, even though it's really technically a 2-down week. To me, this is all inside price action. And anytime you have inside price action, whether it's a compound like this or just on the daily chart, you could take breakout trades, but just know it has to go. If it doesn't go, you could easily get failures on the inside bar. And that's why I was monitoring it very closely today, knowing that the key thing here was that you were getting this 2 down, or, let's call it an inside bar breakout to the downside early in the session. It's the last day of the week. So on a weekly chart, on this time frame, if you're going to break below, an inside bar low, you have a target down here. Now, if it would have done it earlier in the week, you would have had time to get down there. That's why when things happen matter. In this case, you were breaking it out on the Friday, and therefore you kind of knew that it was a little tricky to get down there, and always, it was possible, but you wanted to monitor for that kind of follow through. So what you ended up getting today was, first of all, you gapped down big from yesterday. There was yesterday's close. You gapped down big, but the pre-market range was kind of skewing a little bit to the upper end of that, little range that was developing overnight. And then you start out with the big red bar to the downside. So once price started lower here on bar number 2, you could have went short and tried that breakout and monitored it really closely, because this is a key line. The bottom of the pre-market range actually coincided with this low of the weekly bar. So that was kind of a key area that either you were going to go or you weren't going to go. I personally didn't trade the SPY. I looked at Amazon stock. I'll show you that stock in a minute. I went to the short side and had a small gain there that I shot a video on, versus the SPY. That had targets that were very clear to me to at least take out to set up a no-risk trade. But the SPY, same type of thing. If you got short here on the first bar, you did get the follow through to take that out, and you had to at this point either, scale out and then break even, or just break even on its own, because that's a key level. Anyway, it came up. Once it was coming up, I thought the possibility existed that you are kind of just failing on the inside bar breakout to the downside. And I traded United Healthcare, and Moderna was a gapping down stock that had a signal to try to go long. So I was biased a little bit to the long side to try. United Healthcare was the big stock. I'll show you that one in a second too. So I made some short-term gains on the upside on both those stocks, Moderna and United Healthcare. Anyway, then I did notice we came up and we kind of took out the intraday high and pre-market highs, and you failed. Then you kind of went up again and you failed twice. So at that point, I said, all right, maybe we are going to break out to the downside after this big red shooter bar. I bought some SPY puts. I shot a whole bunch of videos how I scaled out here near the lows. And then once I saw it not failing, to take out the red line, which was the low of the day, I exited the trade, just saying I really, it didn't break out like I wanted it to. So I took a small gain there. I said, I'm kind of done for the day. I did say it was possible you were going to continue lower into the afternoon. We were still to the downside. So I guess if you were still trading and you saw this inside bar and you wanted to try another, sell here, it did kind of reach its target, which was the low of this bar, and it tested those lows again. But you had to also see, once it couldn't break through, break even on that one, if you were even trading that secondary trade. By that point, once it started up, you knew that this was holding, and it ended up, going up towards the end of the day and forming this hammer bar to the upside. So in the end, it's something where context-wise, you kind of knew you're in this big trading range. You knew the key breakout had to happen and really follow through. Time was running out on the week to get there, and it's not surprising. Like I said, I had this in my mind the whole time. You can get a shooter bar followed by a hammer bar. Finally, on the monthly chart, for a moment, we had it turning red, but it ends up staying green. I still don't think this monthly chart looks too exciting. I mean, in terms of unless we get a big rally into the remaining days of the month, but it is green. It could end up being, if we go lower next week or at some point, we could end up with like a shooter bar here that could have a 2 down going into March. So we'll find that out, or we'll just see what happens. And like I said, just looking at the other stocks, I mean, Like I said, Amazon, I had a good trade here to go short on the five. I did it on the 5 minute bar. I kind of shot a video on that early on. I got aggressive here and went short because there was some clear targets here. So you're able to take some nice gains to the short side. United Healthcare, I shot my video how I went long here, scaled out. So there was, you can see this was an up type of trade. So you have to kind of look individually what stocks make sense. And even Moderna, this is a big gap down today. And given that we were heading up, there was an inside bar here to kind of try a long trade, and it was just ended up being a small gain. This was one I didn't know if it would build some strength and maybe fill the gap, but either way, it kind of held up and it was a small gain. So again, individually, Amazon did have a good short trade, and United Healthcare did have a long trade, but the market itself, the SPY, this is another chart, just held its breakout area and didn't go anywhere. And that's always something you got to be careful of when you have inside bars. So 2 inside bars, we still have to figure out, do we get above that or below that? It's getting tighter, it's time's going on. So we're going to get, one way or the other, a breakout. And for now, the expectation more is that we fail the breakout to the downside. This type of bar, if we start above the midpoint into next week, we will expect it to continue higher towards this target here. And then if we hit that, you can see there's all kinds of pivots nearby to take out. So we'll see if we get that reversal back to the top of the range and maybe even a lot higher in the bigger picture to take out this key. This is the key context again, breaking out of that area. Do we hold here and reverse, or we hold here and then go to higher time frame broadening action up here? And that's what we're really watching the last 2 weeks here. It's almost going on 3 weeks. So one way or the other, it's going to go. And now, for now, it looks like maybe the failure was to the downside and have a little, expectations to the upside, but you never know, how things will open next week. So we'll find out.